Welcome, everybody. So my name is Serena Au, and I am the program manager here at Compound. We are so happy to welcome so many people here today to Art for All with Rebekah Rose. If you are new to Compound, Compound is a space that focuses on art, wellness, and social impact. And so we are happy to offer programs like yoga, meditation, sound bath, breath work, and also art programs like this one that highlight just really exciting intersections of art and mental health. We are so excited to be supported by We Rise, which is the LA County Department of Mental Health's initiative to bring mental health supports to everyone here. So welcome, and I did put in the chat, if you would like to add your pronouns to your display name. If this is new to you, that's totally fine. And what pronouns are, personal pronouns are what words you would like to be addressed by when someone is talking about you in the third person. So for myself, I use the pronouns she and they. Some of you might like he, him, they, she, Z, whatever you would like, so that if you raise your hand or want to speak, we can address you appropriately if you'd like to add that to your display name. Otherwise, we'll just call you by your first name. So again, thank you, everybody, and I'll turn it over to our teacher today, Rebekah Rose. So Rebekah Rose, who uses the pronouns they and she, is also a yoga teacher here with us at the Compound on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. So we're super excited to bring Rebekah here to also tell us about their art career and also queer nesting dolls, the subject for today. So thank you, everyone, and I'll turn it over to Rebekah.
Thank you, Serena, for that lovely introduction. I'm so grateful to be doing this with you. So as they already said, my name is Rebekah Rose, and I'll be guiding you guys through queer nesting dolls today. So hopefully everyone already has all their paints with them and their dolls, or if you're doing the coloring sheet, you have your coloring sheets printed out. And if you're still in the process of opening things and printing things out, that's totally fine. There is no rush, there's no pressure to do anything, quickly at least. I want to start just by taking like 3 deep breaths together because as Serena already mentioned, right, I'm a yoga teacher, a mindfulness teacher, and I'm very excited, so I'm getting a little nervous, and I feel like grounding will help me and it might also help you. Especially as we talk about issues that can be sensitive for a lot of people. So I want you to kind of get a sense of how resourced you're feeling right now and what's going to be, most appropriate for you as we move forward. So find a comfortable seat wherever you are, if you're sitting in a chair, if you're sitting on the floor. And take a moment just to ground. If you're able to put your feet on the ground, right, kind of wiggle your toes and feel the surface that's beneath you, right? Maybe close your eyes, right? Connect to the earth. And we'll take 3 deep breaths together. So go ahead and just push your air out, just go, right? And then take a deep inhale in through your nose. Now open your mouth and exhale, go. And feel free to make a little bit of sound when you do it, right? Take a deep inhale through your nose. Right, try a little sigh on your exhale, go. Maybe try even sticking out your tongue, right? Deep inhale. Right, big exhale. Right. At any point as we are painting today, if you get overwhelmed at all, always just come back to breathing and you can do exactly what we just did. Yeah, so slowly start to orient to your space again, and I'll kind of give you a brief little overview of what we're doing today. So we have the 3 nesting dolls, and the prompt is to paint your future self, your past self, and your true self. And so what I mean by that, like here, I did an example on the coloring page. So we're gonna start by looking at the past self, And however you see that, however that makes sense for you, I want you to paint. So if that is a physical representation of how you used to look, or a more abstract representation of how you used to feel or circumstances that you used to be in, that is, you know, however you interpret it, whatever color it is, it doesn't have to look realistic. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone but you. You are not trying to sell this. You are not critiquing this. This is just something that is an expression of yourself that I want you to enjoy. So we're going to consider past circumstances as personal history as well as collective history. When we think of the past of being queer, often queer people have been like, there's been a lot of violence against queer bodies, and we acknowledge that. But as we acknowledge that and we look at our true self or our core, we know that like our true selves, we are like loving. I like to think of it as loving awareness. Right? We at our core, we all have the ability to be compassionate and to be loving and to be aware. So as we acknowledge, right, our true selves, our core, that loving awareness, we hold our past, and then we can look into the future, right? What kind of things we want to see in our futures, right? What kind of feelings we want to have, resources, what kind of communities do we want to build? And so this is just my own interpretation. Like in my past, I was really sad, you know, but as I've worked like on myself a bit more and developed that loving awareness, I feel like I'm just like this beautiful flower blossoming. And in my future, I see a lot of plants and I see a lot of colors. But then there are a lot of things that stay the same. I use similar colors throughout to communicate different feelings that I'm interpreting. And it doesn't really matter to me if you understand my color choices, because this is, again, a personal project. So this is an example for the coloring page, and this is an example I made for the doll. I went abstract, and I'm thinking like, this is me right now, right? I feel like I'm blossoming, I feel like I'm growing, I'm really feeling held and loved by my community in a lot of ways, but I'm also feeling really tired and stressed. And so I made the tips of my leaves yellowing, right? And I know that it's okay to feel that little bit of yellow, right? It's okay to be tired. It's okay to have those less desirable feelings, because I know like I'm still moving forward, and I have that compassion for myself. So those are the kinds of things I want you to be thinking about as we're painting. And from there, we can get started painting. Maybe you already are. And of course, some of you are using coloring pages. So if you're using colored pencils or any other material, of like, you know, do your thing. But again, I'm going to encourage to start with the past self, which is the second to smallest dolls. So we all have 3, right? So the middle one, the inner layer, is representing past self. You can choose your paintbrush, right? There's the 2 sizes. If you have more art supplies at home that you want to use, by all means. And yeah, and then you get started painting. So I'm going to encourage you to paint in thin layers. So as you start to apply your paint, let me see, I'm picking a color. We're going with purple. As you start to apply your paint, right, let's see, can you see it? There we go. You just like spread it around. You can do a solid color for one layer. I don't know if this is working. There we go. Very hard to see my hands. Right, and just spread it around. Oh, I almost forgot to say the thing that I thought was so important. Don't paint on the doll the way I'm doing it right now. Paint in halves. It's gonna make it a lot easier when you're waiting for the paint to dry. So you can paint in half. I'm putting my finger in it, and then I'm just painting around. Nice thin layers, and it's totally okay for the wood to show through. Yeah. And it's okay if you're feeling nervous. You may notice my hands are a little shaky. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm being perceived right now. It's nerve-wracking. but I love it, and I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. Feel free to, if you have questions throughout this workshop, if you need extra guidance on color or paint choices or questions about any of the topics I cover, you can feel free to put those questions into the chat or request to go off of mute or just take yourself off mute. Kind of, if you've practiced yoga with me, you know I'm like all very trauma informed, so I'm all about consent. I'm all about making you feel comfortable and safe so you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. So, I dropped it. So yeah, just paint. I want to make sure what I was saying so far has landed. So I just pause if there is a question at all. Feel free to ask. Oh yeah, and I'm loving the Zoom interactions. If you want to send me a heart or a smiley face, I'll accept a sad face as well. Again, all feelings are welcome.
I just want to acknowledge too that we welcome everybody here, whether you are queer identified or not. So don't feel like you absolutely need to be painting about specifically a queer nesting doll. Of course, if you are queer like myself, we'd love that, please do. But if you are not, please go ahead and feel free to still paint your future, past, and current self. Alec, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have a question? Feel free to unmute yourself and share.
Is it okay if you make accidents? Are you able to wash it off?
Yeah.
What I just did was an accident to the little doll because I was trying to make a little doll, and here's how it turned out.
Oh my, it's so cute. So what I'd say is you can't wash the paint off, especially after it's been dried. But if you feel like you want to paint over it, you totally can. Because you use black, it's going to take many layers of paint to cover it. So it would just take some patience. But if you feel the need to paint over it, you can. However, accidents and mistakes are absolutely welcome in this space. So that's kind of what I'm saying, like just trust your expression. This doesn't need to be anything specific, right? You can add to it and maybe you add color to it and you find that it's not a mistake at all. It's actually something that you really like. Yeah, so you can explore.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have to remember to paint. Okay, so hopefully everyone is working on the past self, and if you're finding it like difficult as you're painting, like you're waiting for it to dry and it's not drying as fast as you thought it would, feel free to bounce around from doll to doll. So if you want to like work on the past and then work on the truth and then work on, you can bounce around. There's no it's okay to not do this in like that specific order, but I wanted to format it in that order because I think especially like as a mindfulness teacher, as a yoga teacher, I talk about presence a lot and about being present. And that's really what I think the true self is, right? It's just like, again, it's loving awareness. The true self isn't worried about past circumstances. It's not concerned with the future. It just exists inside of the senses and inside of each moment. But we also recognize, especially like we have this mental health focus, we recognize that it's not so always easy to be present and feelings don't always feel good. So we look at the past and we realize like, as we move into the future, or hold on, I need to slow down. we know like our past impact how we feel in the present. And a lot of queer stories are full of, you know, trauma. There are some of our younger friends here today are growing up in households where being queer is really celebrated. And that's such a beautiful, amazing thing. And I love that. But we also need to acknowledge that there is not always this history of being celebrated. And a lot of us come from homes where it wasn't celebrated and it wasn't okay. So we hold that history with care, right? So as you're painting the past self, like, are you painting your past appearance? Is it that your body looked different from how you wanted it to be? Is it the way you're dressing was a way of hiding yourself? Or is it like a past feeling, right? Like a feeling of like being left behind or abandoned, right? That comes up. Or is it maybe it is a feeling of love, you know? It doesn't have to be like a heavy feeling. And as you think of those things, like what kind of colors, what kind of shapes come to mind? Right? Is it abstract? Is it literal? Continue to paint. It's really hard for me to paint and talk at the same time, I'm realizing. Sometimes when we think of like those past feelings, there's also this feeling like when I want it to presence is a feeling of being like self-righteous. So I think that's a really interesting one, because when we come from a history where we haven't always been safe or haven't always been accepted, we can get into this mindset of like, I am maybe a victim, or I was right and they were wrong. And we get identified with this feeling of being like self-righteous. And I think that's a very tricky feeling to identify with because it feels really good, but it doesn't allow for others' humanity, right? If we exist in a space where we're resenting others and feeling self-righteous and like holding on, you know, it gets in the way of growth. And that's not to say like, if you are having that feeling currently, or if you had that feeling in the past, or any of the feelings, that's a bad thing or that's wrong. But we have to acknowledge that it's true. And I think this is my pausing point again to check in and make sure what I'm saying is landing, and to see if there's any clarification that I could provide, if any of my younger friends or older friends or any of the ages have a question. Now I'm going to take my pause.
Also, if anybody wants to share what's coming up for them as they're painting, if there's anything that resonates with you with what Rebekah is sharing, please go ahead and feel free to unmute or share in the chat. It's really exciting to see this big family here today all together.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And there's so many of you, so I know there's got to be something cooking in there.
So I'll go ahead and take a risk and share as a person who's quickly approaching her 6th decade of living. I came out when I was in high school, and definitely did not have the love and support of family. I was I'm gonna say spiritually abused, meaning that I was told that I wasn't in God's favor, and that was pretty big for me, because inside I think my true self felt really free, and that this was just my way of living. But then I was told no, that I was not. So I really identify, Rebekah, with what you're talking about, that self-righteous, because in a sense it was like, well, then forget you, forget you, forget you. I'm gonna live my life, and but it was from this place of self-righteousness, and I'm gonna show you, and you're not the boss of me. And throughout the years, I identified also with the song that was playing, like, I wish I could really be free. Like, I wish I could be free. There was this sense of, I don't want to be angry at the world for not accepting me. That's on them. That's on them. I really want to just be free in my own body, in my own mind, in my own consciousness. And it took some time. It took some time to just kind of really just allow myself to be me, and to be in loving relationships, supportive community, and to release that self-righteousness, and for me to just be. It's so, for me, it's like, I want to also create that loving and supporting environment where I can open up my heart and mind to all types of folks, because of their gender expression or their orientation or their views. Like, I want to create space where it's all welcome, because the variety and the difference is actually precious, instead of being, something to be ashamed of. And I know, I don't want to be in that self-righteous, like, I'll show you, or I'm mad at you, so now my life, there's just something about just being, and just allowing others to also be, and provide that space for them. So I really appreciate what what you're saying, and where you're headed with that kind of self-righteousness. I don't have to be. There's no need for it. What there's room for is love, and that loving expression is what we get to create with one another. So thanks for having this.
Sunshine, thank you so much for that share. It's so, I'm like trying to practice mindful listening, where I'm like not thinking about what I'm gonna say next, because everything you're saying like sparks like something inside me that I just like get excited, like, oh, this quote, that like so much of what you're saying resonates. Oh, I'm seeing Alec is raising his hand. Do you have a question?
Well, I don't really have a question, but it's that I finished my dolls, but I don't know what to do next.
You finished your dolls? Did you get the coloring page? If you want to, you can do a similar exercise on the coloring page. Or, yeah, that's what I would suggest doing. You can start on that. And if maybe you want to go back to the dolls, you can always add a little more. Would you like to share your dolls?
Sure. I just had to grab a napkin because I don't want to get my hands dirty because I wash them.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait a little longer then, wait for them to dry.
Actually, I can.
Think it's okay?
Here's the first one. Yeah, this was the one I had an accident with.
It's beautiful. I love it. A happy little accident.
Oh. My Nina's here right now.
Okay.
My Nina's here. I might have to mute myself.
Okay. Thank you, Alec.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I want to speak for another moment. I want to share one more thought I was having about past identity. When Sunshine shared, I was reminded of this thought, because there is like this potential for like a self-righteousness in our feelings. But then there's also the opposite. So sometimes as we are in relationship with people, we also might experience feeling like I did something bad and therefore I am bad. So sometimes when we're in relationship, right, we disappoint people or we accidentally hurt people. Maybe you say something mean and you didn't mean to hurt someone. And then sometimes we get this messaging that, oh no, I made someone feel bad, I must be bad. Or I'm not receiving the love that I should be receiving, I must be unlovable. And I want to presence in this space that it is, there's a difference between doing a bad thing and being bad. So if you're if you in your past or currently are kind of living in that space where you feel like, oh, I'm not feeling lovable, I'm not feeling whole, I'm not feeling like I am good or worthy, like know that that is just like kind of a manifestation of projections, right? Because no matter what you do, whether you didn't share with someone when you were supposed to share, or you use the wrong pronouns, you misgendered someone, and that felt hurtful to them. You are not a bad person just because you made that mistake. And you cannot take that wound you have, or that belief, that fear, and you can hold it, right? With that, again, your true self, your loving awareness self, the one that knows, like, I'm allowed to make mistakes and I'm still valuable, right? I can be queer and still exist in the mainstream. I don't have to exist in the peripheries. I don't have to be outside of everyone else. I am a part of everything. So that, that's again something to think about as you're painting, right? And why we want to paint our past self. Like, it's okay to like make it look sad. I'm like, this is like a crying eyeball. If you can see the art in the background of my room, like, I have written so many poems about feeling sad and feeling hurt. And that is a beautiful thing to express. And it needs to be expressed, right? Because expressing those more negative feeling emotions, that's what leads you to the growth, right? We don't want to get stuck in these cycles of shame, of saying I shouldn't, or I could have been, or, we can move beyond those cycles. So again, I'll pause. If anyone is feeling called to share, if you want to show your art, if you want to ask a question, share what's on your heart, I'll give you space for that now.
I can share. So something that Rebekah and I were talking about as we were discussing about our true selves was the idea of code switching. How many of you are familiar with the concept of code switching? Maybe we could get a show of hands. Okay, so it looks like some people here are familiar and some people are not. So I'll just go ahead and put a resource here in the chat. Oops, nope, that's pronouns. Give me 1 second. So code switching is something that I feel like a lot of us as queer people, and then maybe also as people of color, experience in our day-to-day lives. Put right here for... Yeah, and it's the idea that as you're going about in life and engaging with different people, that you might present yourself in a different way, whether that is with how you speak, how you dress, what you may or may not share about your family, about your partner, about what you're doing in the afternoon, if you're going on a date. And maybe your personal and political views that you might not share at work. So when I think about my true self, I'm thinking about me when I'm alone with my thoughts and assessing my own identity and what makes me feel good and magic about myself. Oh yes, definitely also as neurodivergent people as well. Code switching affects so many people in so many different ways. And I know that's something that I think about a lot when I think about my true self and how to stay my truest self and how to code switch out of the codes at the end of the day to be my true self with me. So that's something I'm thinking about as I'm going along painting my true self right now. Thanks, Rebekah.
Thank you, Serena. And I think that actually is a really important thing to talk about in this space, because it's like that's okay to not always be expressing not always be expressing your true self. If you need to code switch, if you need to hide sometimes to feel safe, that is a survival technique, and that's an important thing to do. And you're the only one who gets to decide if that's necessary or not. So there's nothing wrong if you need to be a little bit of a chameleon sometimes, right? Because that's why we get to have spaces like these where we can acknowledge doing the code switch for safety. And we know that in this space, we don't have to do that. You can be who you are and be loved and be safe and be received. And whether that means you're super femme or super masculine, you're neurodivergent, you're any race, any gender, any of the things, like you get to be that, right? You get to be that and more, right? You can hold the parts that are hidden, the parts that hurt, and simultaneously celebrate, the things that make you feel alive and excited. Let's see. Okay. So I'm checking in. I have managed to paint this is as much as I've managed to paint so far. But if you haven't at all started on your future self like I have, like maybe lay a base layer down so that you have time to paint on it. But there is no pressure to finish this within the time frame of the workshop. But I think I'll give you an opportunity one more time in the context of past self for sharing, and then I'll start to kind of shift more towards like affirmations and future. So if one more moment to share, me being shy. I've gotten really used to the awkward silences on Zoom, so I'm gonna stop and give you a chance.
I'll share. Let me turn off my background because sometimes I can't show other stuff. Like if I'm holding something up, it's hard to share something. But let me see how I can turn this off. Hang on, just a second. Sorry.
No worries.
Background. And off. There we go. Okay, here we are. All right, so for my past self, I started painting the bottom blue, and then the green, and then green with some like specks of black in it. I tend to be like just very hyper competitive and jealous and sad about it, and just a lot of like unpleasant feelings. And a lot of times I've denied it, and it's like doesn't do very well. And I liked how you talked about code switching for safety. Certainly a lot of feelings are coming up around that, and I'm so thankful for this workshop right now. I've dropped in the chat that I'm having a sense of safety and security and what's being said, and the space and the activity itself. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being here. Let's see, I'm getting paint on my hands. That looks amazing, Alec. Wonderful, I love it. If you're finished, if you want to start another drawing, feel free to. Oh my goodness, Zaya. What?
How is that?
That is beautiful. Thank you for showing your art. Anyone else that wants to hold their art up to the camera, feel free to. I think I forgot to say this in the beginning, but if you're one of the friends who has their camera off, of course you can keep the camera off, but you want to flash me some art, I would love that. Jay, you added little arms. Amazing. You'll see a big, beautiful flower. Ooh, I love it. I made this coloring sheet myself. This is my handwriting. So you'll notice so there's the future self. We're talking about loving awareness. We're talking about feeling hurt in the past. And then as we're envisioning our future starts in the present. So you don't need to like think so future that it's like, I'm gonna like, you don't necessarily need to think of it like, I'm gonna have material things and I'm gonna have like all this stuff. It's more about like calling in feelings and calling in, I think community is a big one. Because often if we're too like kind of stuck in our hurt, we feel isolated and alone. So for me, a big part of my future is calling in community. And so, as I was saying, I got lost a little. It starts in the present, and that's why if you notice on your coloring sheets, I believe everyone has a copy of the coloring sheet, there's some affirmations written down. And affirmations are a great way to kind of practice manifesting what you want in the future. And I am mindful of the way I use the word manifestation because manifesting is kind of, it can be a privileged thing, and it can be kind of like an up in the ether kind of woo-woo kind of thing. But I do think it is really real, and there is a power in words and in language. So the three affirmations I offered on the coloring page is I trust my emotions, right? I trust my feelings, right? Sometimes we get programmed to think like we're overreacting or being too sensitive. So as I move forward, I want to trust my emotions and trust my feelings, right? I love my growing body, right? And I was specific about that language, my growing or my changing body, right? In my life right now, like I'm noticing my body is expanding, and there are two parts of me. One part of me is like, damn, like I look so good. You know, I love this belly, what? And then there's another part of me that's like, oh, but am I still strong? Or, oh, but my favorite pants don't fit anymore, you know? Or everyone else, like society says that I need to be really skinny, you know? So there's like this part of me that's like, I'm loving this softness that's coming in my new body, but it's not necessarily like an easy love, or it's almost an easy love. So I'm practicing like, I love my growing body, right? I know some friends here may be like in the process of transitioning, like as your body is changing and you're getting used to that, the new shape as the new hormones come in, like, right? I love my changing body. I love my growing body, right? I'm getting older, things are starting to sag. I love that. Right? I'm really little and I just got a little bit taller. Oh my gosh, how exciting. Right? Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Zaya. And then the third affirmation I offered on the page is I am whole, I am worthy, I am enough. Right? I am whole, I am worthy, I am enough. Right? Sometimes we feel broken. We're never broken. You're always whole. Even if you're not where you want to be or where you think you should be, you are still whole. And you're worthy. Even if you make a mistake, you're worthy of love. Right? Even if you haven't always felt that way in the past, you are worthy of safety. You deserve resources. You deserve community. right? We are all worthy of that just by existing, right? The prerequisite for being worthy of love is existing. You don't have to earn it. You always belong, right? I am enough, right? Sometimes, especially like in a, a capitalist society, we often feel like we have to like strive for more constantly in order to be enough. Like I'm a Capricorn sun, so I'm always like out there trying to do the next thing and be prepared for the next thing, and like, that's the way I struggle with internalized capitalism, is like always feeling like it's not enough. So I practice telling myself like I am enough. What I have is enough. Like I could always have more resources. I could always have more friends. I could always have more things. But even if I'm not quite there yet, right, that's enough for the moment. Right? There's nothing wrong with where you are. So I'm taking a deep breath because I'm feeling vulnerable. You can take a deep breath, make sure you're still in your body as you're painting. And again, I'll open the floor if anyone feels called to share a thought, ask a question, show off their art.
I would like to share.
Okay.
I am just very happy that I get to draw my big nose on these little dolls, and I'm very excited about that. I just got done drawing my own face on all of them with like less makeup as it gets smaller, and that's very exciting for me.
Now,
Thank you. Zaya, you want to share?
oh, sorry. I accidentally grabbed the wrong color on the palette by accident.
Happens. That's okay.
Happens a lot.
Same, honestly.
Although I did have a little something to share.
Mhm.
Well, I had a question if anybody else besides me has made these little dolls about things they want to be or do in the future. Why is everybody staring at me?
So, yeah.
So is there anybody?
Anyone else is making the dolls about what they want to be in the future? I think Jay is holding up, is that a little spear? A little chicken. Oh no, you want to be a farmer, huh?
Nice.
Yeah.
Zaya, I'm making the top of mine like the state flag for New Mexico because I want to move to New Mexico in the future.
Nice. Wait a minute. Are you at the hen house?
I'm at the hen house. We're all at the hen house.
Hey.
I miss you.
We love the hen house.
Indeed we all do. Indeed we all do.
Yeah. What and can I ask Saya what you are painting for your future?
Hold on. Well, technically, I want to be a very great chemist and inventor.
Wow, a very great chemist and inventor.
Although, of course, as a small person like me, a girl could have dreams, such as, is anybody here familiar with the movie The Transformers?
I am. Yeah, I've seen Transformers. I see a lot of nodding.
Okay, well, I am a very big fan and I would like to bring them to life someday.
Okay. Yeah. I think I believe in you. Honestly, if anyone can do it, you can.
Thank you, although it's going to take a lot of scrap metal.
Yeah, you'll have to find a way to recycle.
Most likely.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Zaya.
No problem. Well, over and out.
Over and out. Is anyone else feeling called to share? I'm noticing my niece just ran away. I was just noticing that there is a 2-year-old amongst us, and she is the cutest. I would love to make her talk, but she ran off. And that is okay. Anyone else interested in sharing? Again, you can put it in the chat. If you're not comfortable taking yourself off mute, you can also request it in the chat, and I'll help you out.
Jay and Zaya, I'm really happy that you guys shared about the idea of your future self. I don't know if anyone is like me, but this whole past year, I had a really hard time thinking about myself in the future. I could only really think of myself in the current or get lost in my overthinking about the past with all my extra free time at home. So I know recently I've been able to kind of carve out what my future could look like on more than a 1-month term, maybe starting to plan for like 3 months or more months. And so that's really exciting for myself. And I know we're all kind of emerging slowly, at least if you're in California, around Long Beach, with our ever-changing what we can do and what we should do with ourselves. So I've really enjoyed this opportunity to be able to picture my future self. So mine, I just have a blue sky. Ooh, where's the camera? Blue sky with some stars that I'm painting on right now to think about wishes that I want to make for myself on stars in the future. So just appreciating the opportunity to dream with you guys.
Thank you for that share, Serena. I love the way you're interpreting, what am I saying? Interpreting the prompt and how that's manifesting for you. I'm still having a hard time facilitating and painting, so I've gotten this much farther. I added purple. So that's cool. Of course, like no one needs to feel rushed to finish these now. Please, take as long as you need to finish them. I believe all of you have us on social media, so if you finish and you want to tag me, I would love to see finished products online. I love, especially coming out of the pandemic, I've gotten really used to digital virtual communities. So I'd love to see what you guys end up coming up with. And yeah, I'm appreciating again what Serena said about not having a hard time visioning the future coming out of the pandemic. It's been kind of rough. I'm noticing Linda has a hand up.
Yes.
And
hi, Rebecca. I came by yesterday and met you at the table. And although I've enjoyed listening to the various reactions that people had and your invitations to be involved and to create, I'm saving my dolls to paint tomorrow with my granddaughter. And so I've appreciated all the input that you've given and seeing the things that others have contributed. I want to tell about a project rather similar, but a little different off. The other day with my grandgirls, I painted stepping stones. I had seen a salon that was closing and they were throwing out all their old nail polish in just a really broad variety of colors, maybe about 150 different bottles I walked away with in a plastic bag because they didn't want them anymore. And so I just picked up at the home supply store, just regular, not a little bit larger than bricks, but I think they're only $2.50, maybe about this big, 8 inches by, or 12 inches by 6 inches, just a flat brick that would be used to probably cap off a wall. And we looked at a little garden that I've been working on in the front yard. And there's a place where to get from the garden to the sidewalk, you have to kind of step into the garden and it gets all mushy on your shoes. So we just painted whatever on the the three girls did each a stepping stone. And I'm going to use those. They don't need them at their house, but I'll use these now colorful stepping stones as I step out each day and decide what kind of a day I'm embarking on.
Mhm.
And would I skip the stone and try to walk around, or would I embrace it and just say, you know, I'm stepping into a world that is a beautiful garden and bright colors, and where will this lead me? What will my next steps be on this day? So I very much find that in concert with what you're doing right now,
Mhm.
of knowing where you are and then consciously choosing what your future may be, or putting energy towards that. So I feel very comfortable in the things that you're talking about, and I really like it. And thank you to everyone for trusting and sharing their stories.
Thank you. I love that project. That sounds like so much fun and such a beautiful thing to get to have moving forward. I believe there is one person who is trying to share, but having difficulty coming off of mute. I wonder if I can try to press the, let's see what this does.
Hey,
Any
can
luck,
you hear
Emma?
me?
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I couldn't print out the coloring page in time, so I'm gonna try. I just redrew it on my iPad. So
Okay.
I've just been sketching on my iPad because I got one of those knockoff eye pens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually been pretty cool. But
Yeah.
there's
Whoa.
light and stuff.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see.
There's a bit of a glare, but we're getting like the basis of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, like I like the idea of my like present and future self kind of like wrapping up all the other selves and like acknowledging that progress.
Mhm.
So I think it'll be a really cool thing to like come back to repeatedly and just play with a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah. Oh, there's less glare when I do it like this.
So cool. Wow.
Past self is definitely the one now that I actually have like access to mental health like stuff through my current school. I'm realizing got a pretty bum deal. So like being able to acknowledge like the extent of the damage that I went through and then like start really doing that healing process has been like really useful to like figuring out exactly like how to move forward.
Mhm.
So that's been a really nice thing to like actually apply in like a tactile way. But yeah, thank you for doing this.
Of course. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your art and
Yeah.
your beautiful self.
Hi. Okay.
I'm glad we figured out how to get you off of mute.
Yeah, I'm glad we figured it out. Okay, I'm going back.
I'm looking in the chat. You're getting affirmations in the chat. Alex said, cool.
So I know we are coming up on our last few minutes here. I really wish we could hang out much longer and keep painting. In our last few minutes here, I just want to make sure if anybody has any questions or last thoughts for Rebekah that they're able to get those in.
I have one.
Yeah, go for it.
The next time you ever paint a nesting doll, I was thinking about this, but not only is there this kind where there's like a little lid where it pops on and off. Maybe next time try and do one of those ones that are made out of clay and where you don't make the bottom and you just it's the boxes when you take the bottom cover off, the thing that's inside the box will come out.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have the bottom and you make it out of clay. Next time make one of those kinds of nesting dolls.
Okay, noted. Thank you for that feedback.
It's like this.
Okay. Clay nesting dolls.
And it's like when you put it in, but there's no bottom.
So there's no bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think me and Mom about that one.
So they just stack.
That's it.
Okay. Feedback received. Thank you for that idea. I love that. Would anyone else like to share, provide feedback?
Click on the. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm really nervous, but for my past self, I did a blank canvas slash like mirroring, because I think it's a lot about my fawning and just like reflecting people's personalities back and letting people just put whatever they want on me. And then on the inside, it's just blue, because behind it all, it's like there's a lot of sadness and depression being carried. And then for the future self, I decided to do all the really bright colors that take up space and attract people's attention, because I'm really scared of doing that. I like blending in the background, and then it bleeds in to the blue and makes it a little bit easier to carry. And then in this process, I kind of lost my true self. I'm still trying to find it. I think it blew away, but I think that's really like appropriate. Oh, I found it. There you are. I'm still trying to figure him out, but so he's blank. I think that's part of the journey. So that's it.
Oh, I love that. Oh my god. I can't believe you painted the insides. That I saw this in the chat, but mine is blown right now. Okay, so we're about that time where we need to be wrapping up. Do we have time for one more share? Does that feel okay to everyone? Yeah? Is anyone feeling called to share? We are here for you. We are queer.
I'll share.
Yeah.
Okay, so really quickly, my past self is kind of sad. It'd probably be easier to actually show you my drawing. It's kind of sad and hiding because I was not very confident and really kind of just not sure of myself. And then I did my future self, like this rainbow, like just confident, radiating all of the queer colors. And then my little true self is just blue ocean and sky, like freedom. I try to represent just feeling free and not feeling like in my head or anything like that.
That's so beautiful. I love that you decided to go full rainbow for the future, and that calmer inside while still holding. Actually, I've noticed your colors are similar to mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for hosting. This has been awesome.
So good.
I just really want to thank Rebekah first and foremost for being here with us this weekend. Ooh, Lindsay, that looks awesome. Wait, show us again. Oh, I love that. Beautiful. That is so cool. Thank you everyone for being so vulnerable, sharing your work with us, sharing your beauty with us. I just want to have a round of applause for Rebekah Rose. We are so grateful for you. And thank you everybody else too for being here this weekend. I hope, I love all the different forms of applause and joy that
Thank you for the class.
Thank you, Alec, for being here, for sharing your joy with us. Zaya, everybody for sharing your joy with us today. We hope you could take the spirit of the nesting dolls and your current and future and past self with you, and know that all of those layers are cherished, all of those layers are loved, and all of those layers are enough. So thank you all. And it's time to go. So we'll say bye to everyone today. And please stay in touch, and you can follow Rebekah online.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.